today, we're continuing the trust series, this trust conversation and kind of helping people like coach through this as well, because we get these questions a lot and a lot of our classes and programs is something that keeps coming up is trust. How do I trust God more? And then that was our first part, right? And we talked about the takeaway was to develop like your own personal trust story with God, like Musa did, how he had like a trust story, connecting all those dots. Then last
Yeah.
week we went on and we started talking about trusting in yourself, because a lot of times that we lack that self trust, and self doubt just takes over. And then we
Yeah.
just, we can ever achieve anything between trusting God and having a relationship with Allah, or trusting ourselves and our careers and our future, and all of that. And I
That's
think we
true.
concluded one of the takeaways from last week was really when you're trying building that trust in yourself, you're also anchoring and you're relying on that God created you in a perfect form, like building that trust in
Yeah.
Allah,
Yeah.
right? That you are
Yeah.
perfect
Basically,
form.
yeah.
Go
Basically, the more God spill over into trusting yourself, like that trusting God, backbone for you trusting yourself.
Yeah, including your strengths and your
Yeah.
weaknesses. And that's part of the
Yeah.
package. Your weaknesses are
That's
just
part of the
part of the
package.
perfection. It's part of your complete human being, even though we just, complain about our own weaknesses and hold
That's
ourselves
true.
down from all of these, right?
Yeah.
And so today is that next level that, for a lot of us, it might be one of the hardest levels. It's the most difficult. And it keeps coming up. It comes up for me all the time, especially when things are down and you're in the rut. And I think for many people, this past year has been challenging because of the pandemic, and a lot of challenges have come forth. But it's really trusting people. It's like we can sometimes we're like, okay, well, I can learn how to trust myself, or I think I'm working on my trust with God, but I really can't trust people. I can't handle them anymore. Like I'm done with them. I know, I think I was there in October where I think I told you at our last Seeds of
Uh-huh.
Wisdom, I was like, I'm done with people. I'm just done. I don't want to talk to them. I don't want to deal with them. I don't want them. Just leave me alone.
Yeah.
Um, mentality. And we just can't, right? Like we're dealing with people all day,
Yeah. Yeah. A
every
lot
day.
of times that's what it feels. It feels best to just like, you know what? Just let me have my own little circle and that's enough for me and I'm done. It's
Yeah,
much easier. It's definitely easier. Definitely. You
it's
don't
definitely
have to
easier.
deal with all of that, what's out there.
But then you're like, how do you live?
You're
How
right. Yeah.
forward. You have your spouse, you have colleagues, you have a career, you have work, you have parents, you have friends. Like you
Yep.
have people. It's part of life. You can't just self-isolate and just be like, okay, forget it. I don't trust anybody. So I'm
No.
gonna just close my door and
Yeah.
be alone, right?
And I mean, before we delve into this, it occurred to me that we never addressed why this word is so important. That this thing is very important. Like the whole thing about trust,
Mm,
and why is it so important what we do? It's interesting because when we say faith or iman or belief, right? All of this is actually rooted in the word amina, which is trust. Like amina, the a and the m and the n. This root word actually has the meaning of trusting and being safe. And it's interesting how the root has these two meanings, and trust and safe kind of like go together. And that's why you want trust, because that's what you do need. You do, as a human being, you do need to feel safe. And it's kind of like literally the backbone in all relationships, whether it's to God or to yourself or to others. We can't move freely and move like courageously and powerfully and create and do what we need to do in life if we don't have that trust. So that's why it's really essential, and you got to do whatever you need to do to develop that for yourself. That's why it's so important.
yeah. And how do you live a fulfilled and content life if you can't create that space or have
Exactly.
that space, whether it's in your personal, like immediate family household, and then you keep growing outward. But otherwise, you're just living in fear,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah.
And you're not, I tend to look at life. Okay, so when I'm in my rocking chair, what do I want to feel, and what do I want to look, what I want it to look like? And if I keep holding myself down with all of these the negative experiences in life, the breakdowns and the breakups and the breakthrough, all that, then I won't get to my happy rocking chair moment or place, because you can't move forward. You can't
Exactly.
experience the ultimate, the very highs, if you're not willing to take those risks and put
Yep.
yourself out and experience life.
Yep.
And you're just kind of always like holding yourself down, or it feels like life is holding you down,
Yeah.
and so yeah, that's absolutely
It's foundational. It's really foundational, as you said.
yeah,
Otherwise, you're just not going to be fulfilled. Exactly as you're saying. You're not. You always be, and that's how you see. Like people always complain about this. Like I'm not happy. I'm not fulfilled. I'm not good enough. I'm not doing what I want to do. I'm not achieving what I need to achieve. And in the bottom of, like, behind all of this is that lack of trust, whether in God or in yourself or in people, and they are linked to each other. It might manifest more in one of them,
right,
but it does have, like, yeah, you might be kind of like better in other areas or occur better in other areas, but they do link to each other unless you really have that deep, like, look into it for yourself and anchor yourself in it, and start doing the work that needs to happen. Then it's always going to be something that's impeding you, and that's an obstacle in your way of being fulfilled in
yeah,
your.
yeah. I think I was sharing like last time when I was saying, when I kind of hit that low point last October or so, right
Yeah.
before our last retreat, and I was like, okay, that's it, I just don't like people anymore.
Yeah, I remember.
I said it, and I was like, I just have a trust issue with people now. And that's been because of, I'll share more, but more of like the experiences from
Yeah.
work and projects and business and things like that. But I did notice that it was holding me down in all these other areas. Like my Iman was sinking, you
Yeah,
know,
so true.
I was losing the other areas of trust and that I wanted to grow, but it's like, well, you can't grow it if you can't clean up and fix whatever's holding you down. And for me, it was realizing I really have a trust. I had a trust. I'm getting better at it. I mean, it's a work in
Yeah.
progress, but when I was at the lowest point, I was really like, man, people suck, you know? After this past year of the pandemic, and you saw what happened with like the social justice issues, so many
Yeah.
issues. I mean, this world's been turned upside down the past year, and I saw so much ugliness in the world that I was like, oh my god, like I'm
Yeah.
so like disgusted.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
learning or working on that right now in the past couple months of like, how do I pull myself out of that? Because
Yeah.
like as we're talking, and we'll talk more, is that there's a greater purpose for all of us, and there's a greater purpose of humanity. Like Allah created humanity with such greatness that
Yep.
if we all forget that, man, we're doomed.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. It's like when you talk about trusting people, there's so many ways.
Hmm.
It could manifest in so many ways. I'm not sure if we can even capture it,
Yeah.
in this conversation. It's like there are so many layers to it, so many levels to it. It depends on your relationships, it depends on the types of people, it depends on you. So it's really very vast.
Yeah.
But definitely there is an underlying thing that can be, you can kind of like have for all of it to restore that. There's some kind of underlying thing for all of it. So maybe it might be a good idea, just like as you said, maybe kind of like if you I definitely have areas that I could also highlight in how it looks for me,
Hmm.
and I know that you do have as well. You talked to me about a little bit about it, so I think that could be some examples, and I know that people can have all kinds and also examples
Yeah.
around their trust with people.
I mean, for me specifically, what really was bringing me down was like a break in trust in more work relationships
Mm.
and projects, and it was more career and business oriented where,
Yeah.
it's happened multiple times over the past couple of years from starting a business. And even though I got all the warnings from so many different people, like watch out for this when you start a business, watch out for that. It's so hard because you end up falling into, you're learning.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
but when there was a real break in trust and on projects and work, and it wasn't just about deliverables, it was bigger stake issues and things
Mm.
that could really hurt yourself, your reputation, the business, its reputation,
Wow.
money. Like there's a lot of things involved. And even though people came off as seeing as being like, yes, we're on board, later on finding out that no, they're actually somewhere else, and this, not realizing that there was maybe dual intentions there.
Mm.
um and I think that happens to a lot of people, whether it's on projects or careers, and like from a work perspective, right?
Yeah.
Because and it was hard because
Mm.
you could start off with great intentions
Yeah.
and have everything very clear and written and outlined, and this is what the plan is. But people change, and intentions can
Yeah.
change for people, and
It's true.
then there's a really bad breakup of trust, and it hurts. It really hurts, and it kind of um, creates that filter and that lens that kind of starts covering your eyes of looking forward of how do I deal with other people,
Or I don't want to deal with people
or I don't
anymore.
want to deal with them at all. Forget it. I'm just going to do this on my own, but that doesn't go very far.
It does not. That's the thing. Yep. Yeah. No, I mean, that's so real. Exactly as you said. Sometimes you might do everything that you need to do, but at the same time, still something that can come up out of people. And I think that's where the underlying thing is to we want to when we want to look at people. That's why we said kind of like they're linked together.
Hmm.
Your trust from people about people or in people comes from your trust in God again, because these people are his creation, just like how we talked about ourselves.
Yeah.
So again, the good and the bad in them is his creation. Their design is his creation. So the more you have trust in him, the more that's going to start spilling into trusting people in a way where at the same time, like as I believe in that, at the same time, I know that their weakness might show up in a very ugly way. And there
Right.
is a risk in that. I
Yeah.
am aware, and I have to take the precautions, exactly as you said. Like I have to take all the precautions there, not because I know they're bad. No, they could be awesome and great, but I have to take every single precaution there to make sure that everything is written, everything is registered. And yet there might be something. They might lie, as you said. They might stab you in the
Have to
back.
change
They
the
might
mark. Right.
change intentions, do stuff. But yet, as God says it in the Quran so many times, when you're doing these kinds of things, write it down,
Yeah.
document everything. And why is it? Because like he's talking about people who trust him, who believe in him. No, you
Yeah.
have to, because you have to remember people have weaknesses. Like the story of the prophet Yusuf, peace be upon him. His brothers, they are sons of a
Yeah.
prophet, and they betrayed him. They threw him in the well.
Yeah.
So people can go bad and they can go wrong.
And they can come back,
And they
right?
can come back. And then
But
at the end,
yeah.
exactly. And that's the thing, that it's just like how you look at yourself. I mean, you are great. You are his creation. You're awesome. You're good. And you can make mistakes. You have greatness and you have a weakness. So the same package that you are made in, you don't throw yourself, trash yourself if you did something wrong. You come back. The same way, if some person is like that, and person might be a person talk to, I don't want to interact with anymore. I just want to end that interaction, done. But the
And there's nothing
problem is
wrong with that. I mean,
exactly,
that's
there's
what
nothing
I did.
wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just coming to peace with that, where you're like, there's nothing wrong with ending a relationship that's just gone bad.
The only thing that stays, as you said, is that there stays that bad taste afterwards, that
Yeah.
lingering feeling of just like, I'm not sure if I want to go into another risk or into
Right.
another. What if that next person turns out to be
like
having
that.
the same thing, and they might, and especially if you have like a couple or three of them, it's like, okay, see, I mean, I have so many. That's where as you said, you come to the courage of, okay, what are my choices? I can either say that, hey, I mean, there is a possibility, there's a chance that a person might be bad or something like that, or do something bad, and then that's why I don't want to deal with anything. Or
Mhm.
you can say, you know what, there is greatness in people.
Yeah,
And just like how I interacted with something that didn't turn out to be the best, I might have the best interactions in the next interaction.
right.
And that's where also you ask God, do istikhara, right? We call it
Yeah.
the prayer where you ask him, like, to move forward with this interaction. Should I move forward with it? I'm consulting you. I'm asking you to tell me if that's the good thing to do, because again, there are things we may not know.
Yeah. And now that you're
So
talking, I remember even in my most stressful times of the past 2 years, I feel like it was stressful the entire time, but I
yeah,
mean,
yeah,
I remember you now that you're talking, telling me every single day, you have to do istikhara every single day.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
every single day,
absolutely. I'm
you need
telling you, yeah.
istikhara to figure out what you're going to do, what the decisions
Yeah,
you're going to make on your business, on your life, on these for the next morning, because it's just you are making decisions every single day, you
yeah,
know, even if regardless if you're like in my situation where I was running a business, I had to make all these critical decisions. But when I look at it, just even if you didn't have that, you are critically making decisions
you
every single
are.
day on your family, how your perspective of the world. You're making decisions on other people, whether you call it decisions or judgments. There's decisions that making every
Yeah.
single day that we encounter, and
Yeah,
that's
and that's why you put your trust, kind of like, again, you bring that trust from God. It's like, okay, I'm asking you to help me in this. As you said, I honestly do it every day, every single day.
yeah,
I have something to ask about. Like, if this is good, let it happen. If it's not, let it hold back. If this is, and you have to keep doing that, because again, there is always a chance. There's always a risk that it may not turn out.
yeah,
And it's up to us at the end of the day to just like think, okay, well, am I just going to shut down and say, I've tried enough, and all the chances that I had were not good? Maybe they could be a couple, maybe they could be more, and I'm not gonna. And then you've got to deal with the cost of that, as you
right,
said, right? Or you're gonna say, you know what, I know you mentioned it, you, although you were very hurt, you said, you know what, that's it, I can't miss this chance. I have to just like tough it
yeah,
up and
yeah,
jump in
right.
and say
Yeah,
Bismillah. And
otherwise, yeah, exactly. You have to build yourself back up. I mean, there are tools, like we've been talking about these different trust elements. There's ways to build that trust back up, but if you don't, then life will just pass you by.
exactly.
And then you're like, oh my God, 10 years went by, or 5
Yeah,
years, or you're like,
yeah,
I missed out because um, I didn't want to experience life fully. And, if you want to experience life fully, there's the good and the beautiful,
yeah,
most amazing things in humanity out there. But yeah,
yeah,
you're going to have to learn how to deal with the not so great things and the ugliness too.
yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people, a lot of the times, even the understanding of what being safe is, or safety is, gets kind of like becomes very limiting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you want to make sure that there is a safety, but when you fail, for a lot of people, when you're betrayed, for a lot of people it occurs as like, oh, I'm not safe. Well,
Mhm.
that's where you start. That goes back again to building your trust with yourself. That's why it's kind of like built also not only on your trust in God, but also in your trust with yourself. When you failed, it's not because you're not good enough or you're not worthy, or you bring it back to yourself like, oh no, I'm just, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, it's not for
Yeah.
me.
And that's exactly what happened to me when I was at that lowest point, and I just kind of was like, okay, I'm done. I was realizing I was having a lot of self-doubt talk. Like, what did
Mhm,
I do wrong? How was
mhm,
I so stupid? How did I not notice this, and forget it. Like, this isn't, maybe I'm not worthy. Maybe
yeah,
I'm not worth doing this. I should just go back to my old stuff, or,
yeah.
and then I'm like, no, wait a second. I had the experience. I know what I'm doing.
And I had so many successes, maybe
I know
all the
I've had
successes that you
successes.
had, you forgot.
Yeah, so like, just to not give up and be like, no, I think, God put me here for a reason, for something greater. I'm still in the process of working on that and figuring that out, but it's that um attaching to something bigger and
Yeah.
greater.
And that's where, with these interactions that didn't go well, it's either that I could just like say, okay, I don't trust people, or you say it was like something went wrong, whether with people or from me, and let me see what I can learn as an experience.
Right.
I mean, again, it's really, I mean, at the end, it's a choice. It's really a choice. You
Yeah.
either choose to just like surrender or submit to your own emotional like condition. I feel horrible and I don't want to trust and I'm done. You can surrender to that and
Yeah.
deal with that, like, stop, or that you're dealing with. Or you could say, it's not me. That happens to every single human being.
Yeah. Yes.
And let me just see what can I do different next time, in next
Right.
interaction. How can I do it differently, and see how that would turn, and just keep growing. And that's how people build experience.
Yeah.
Even in your career, like I remember, with medicine, I remember when I started with flow, when I started doing the first steps, it was like crazy. I would just like doubt every single thing. I would see them in my dream, like, oh my gosh, this report that I said, it's definitely wrong.
Yeah.
And then you start building that experience. You have to keep just like, okay, I have to click that button and I have to send it, and then I have to trust
Yeah.
things happen.
Yeah. And there's an element of I think healing, that needs to take place as well. And I think that goes off
Absolutely.
back to the trust in God and just creating that source of healing in your heart and
For
your
yourself,
soul,
for sure.
for yourself, because it's like when things happen to you, it's like opening up, otherwise it's constantly opening up a scar,
Mm,
right? And you're just like, well, there it is. I don't like people, and people aren't trustworthy, and they're gonna hurt me. And they're after
yeah,
me, or they're just mean. But
yeah,
if you don't create that, if you don't really heal yourself and get that healing from God, then you're never going to see the beauty in
yeah,
humanity and the most amazing things that happen.
yeah. And I think the most important thing to highlight from all what we're saying is the understanding that you actually can heal yourself.
Yes.
You just want to own it and be responsible for healing yourself. Don't think that it's something that's just going to come at you. If you're really like, no, I am going to get out of this, and you
Yeah.
ask God, and your relationship with Him would be a healing tool for you, would be a healing space for you. But you gotta step up and do that, and nobody's gonna do it for you. And I
Right.
think that's the most important thing. It's like, but if you think that the scar is there, done, I can't do anything about it, that's it.
Yeah, like you have to
That's
carry this load of this baggage and this scar and this.
all your life. Exactly. No, you don't have to. You
Yeah.
don't have to.
Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
much simpler. It's much simpler than we think, really. I mean, at the end, it's like, oh, I'm making all of this drama. Like, it's my emotion that's making all of this drama, because I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, the hurt and the other person or whoever could have gone beyond that and just been like, I don't even know. I mean, they moved on and you're still stuck wallowing in this
Yeah.
mess.
Yeah. And a lot of times it occurs like, I really have no control over it. Like, yes,
Yeah.
you do. You do have control. If you really want to move forward, you do. You do. It might take some time. It might take some time to heal, but once you get into it, it will, for sure. And ask God, like, keep praying to Him, keep asking Him. He never leaves you. Your
Yeah.
trust in Him would heal, would bring all of that healing to all of these areas.
Yeah. I mean, there's always an element there's always love.
There
And
is
we
love.
always go
Yeah.
back to that. Like there's just so much love if you're willing to tap into the source.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. I know we mentioned also another that's something that regarding trust, like other examples of trust, right? Like we said, you mentioned something around work. What else was there? What's another example that would be where people lose trust in people?
yeah, I mean, I think there's always people feel like they've been backstabbed, right?
Yeah,
Friendships that have gone
and
wrong.
yeah,
Even
yeah,
with family relationships, like you see that where there's like brothers or sisters that have lost trust in each other. And
Yeah,
where does that stem from? Sometimes it's money issues, it's
it's true.
power. Um, and then
Sometimes people walk over you, just like,
yeah, where you feel like I know we talked about this, it's very like where you're being too nice and then you're always feeling like people are taking advantage of you.
yeah, it's true.
And I know I feel like sometimes
That's
that.
for me. That's my thing. Yeah, that's me. I know it's always like, yeah, it's just like being too nice and not wanting to occur as somebody who's very picky or very mean or very, you just kind of like, okay, let things slide by,
Right.
only to realize that when you later on, it'll come at you like much, much worse. If you
Yes.
really dealt with it from the beginning and occurred, like it was a difficult conversation, but you did it from the beginning, it's much better to do rather than, and you will, and that trust will be built. See, their lack of trust in you is because of you. Like, it's me, that's
It's
why
like
they're not trust.
confidence.
Exactly, it's confident. When I'm not trusting myself, then that's how they feel that they can walk all over me.
Right.
My problem, it's not their problem why they're
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas if you just have the confidence to say, okay, these are my the boundaries or borders. This is how operate and deal with relationships. Do not cross this,
Yeah, or
or
be
clean
clear,
up
like
the
really.
mess,
Exactly.
that do happen. Then instead of just saying, oh, it was okay, it's okay,
There you go.
everything under the rug, and then you're like, I can't believe they did this again and again and again. Well,
Well, it's because of you.
we never said, I don't like this.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that's the thing. It's like getting clear from the beginning, getting some clarity from the beginning, how
Yeah,
you want things or how things don't work or whatever, right? And being dealing with these things with integrity and with clarity makes a huge difference. It really makes a huge difference. No matter how hard it is, I know for me, sometimes I'm just like, I don't want to have this phone call. I don't want to have this interaction. I don't want to do this. And
right.
it's so tough.
Yeah,
And especially when you have work and friendship together, that's when
yeah,
it's so hard. Like, you can occur as you're kind of like really being mean to the friendship, like, no, what, let's just get clear. And you could say, just so that things go smooth, and we don't want things to turn out to be not clear. And then it develops as like, now I'm just like starting to build that capacity. It's like, hey, let's
yeah,
just, wanting and asking for that isn't bad. It's
right.
not saying anything bad about you. And a lot of times it's cultural. A lot of times people kind of like it should occur in a certain way.
Yeah. It's like letting go of these sometimes some of our cultural background kind of might hinder our
Exactly.
communication,
That's
you
true.
know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So trust, I mean, you not trusting people could be the source of it, is that you're not trusting yourself. So you always want to go back, is that, are you coming across that you're not trusting yourself? Because
yeah,
that could be the source of why they're not trusting you, or I'm sorry, that you can't trust them.
yeah,
That could be why they're kind of like doing their thing and not paying attention to you, because you didn't set that, you weren't clear on
yeah.
that.
Yeah. And that goes back to the when we started out this series, you kept identifying there's like, these three elements and they're not independent. Like they're
Yeah.
all related and you need to heal and connect all of these things to really move forward
Yeah.
powerfully. You have
Yeah,
to.
and the bottom line, I would say, though, the bottom line is your trust in God. Like,
Yeah.
I would really
Or
think
that's like the
it's
pinnacle
the
of it.
pinnacle. Exactly. It's like, if you're looking at the triangle, it's the top of the triangle. When you have that solid for yourself, the more you build that experience and the capacity and that relationship, trust relationship that you have with God, that's going to spill into your trust in yourself and into your trust with others. And
Yeah.
once your trust with yourself and others happen, then that also feeds into each other. Your trust in self feeds into your trust with people, and your trust with people feeds into your trust with yourself. But it all starts with trusting God,
Yeah.
really, not a concept, in reality, in life, in your own, like, it's in your bones that you trust Him.
Yes. And that's the source of healing. That's
That
where you,
is the source of healing. That's the source of healing and source of power to act
right.
with trust, and to
Yeah.
believe in people, and to believe in yourself, and to forgive. Because sometimes when they mistrust, you have a mistrust with people, you need to forgive. Where
That's so
does that forgiveness come from?
right. Yeah.
It's going to come from your full trust in him and his creation,
Yeah.
that you can do that, you can say that. So there's no way around that connection, like build that relationship, that trust with him. Goes back full circle, as you said.
It goes back, yeah. It goes back full circle. We go back to the top of the triangle.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So true. Right.
Well, I mean, this was awesome. I mean, I love talking about and dissecting all of these different aspects because you need that conversation to keep flowing because a lot of times we don't
Yeah.
talk about any of these things,
Yeah, that's true.
it's always just like just trust God, okay? And we're like, well, what the
Yeah.
hell does that mean? And we don't get a chance to really dissect and how do we, ourselves
Yeah.
first hold ourselves accountable where where the break might be for between ourselves and God, but then and also trust, ourselves and other people. And how do you build that back up? Because, we want to live fully. We want
That's true.
we want a better world, not just for us, but for our kids. And we got to start with ourselves for this to kind of trickle out into our communities.
So true. So true. And the most, I would say, I mean, what's behind all of this is you knowing that this is all attainable and doable.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Right.
Every single one of us has the ability to build that full trust in everything, in God, in you, and in others. It's possible. It just like requires that courage. It requires that, as you said, willingness. I am not willing to stay like this.
Yeah.
If you're just like tired of how things are and tired of all of that, then you can get up and do it.
Yeah.
And I know there are other areas about trust that we didn't cover, and we might come to it later on, especially when it comes to people, regarding people,
Yeah.
because it's impossible to hit on every area. But again, as we said, the bottom line is the same.
Exactly.
You expand exponentially when you have that bridge between you and God, exponentially, amazingly. I mean, these things are going to get resolved.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that's what I've noticed. That's what I've been working on. So,
right.
my, the bottom of the rut moment. And I mean,
Mashallah, you've been resilient. It's amazing. Like I so vividly remember our conversation in October. And
yeah,
you are just like, yeah, well, I was able to get out of it because you're
yeah,
kind of like, I'm clear. I can't stay there.
yeah. It's miserable. It's just
It
miserable being
is
in that,
absolutely.
like when you're digging into a hole,
Yeah.
it's just a miserable place to be. And
So
you
true.
don't want to suck everybody else into it. And then you're all wallowing in this hole. And it's like, well, how do we get out of it? We got to get out of this. Like, this isn't a nice, happy, inspiring place to be.
Yeah,
I
exactly.
don't want this for
Exactly.
myself. I don't want this for my family. I don't want this to, infiltrate into my kids either. Like, I mean, like, there's the whole world out there. So
It's so true.
you got to
Yeah.
get moving and break through.
Mhm.
And I just wanted to even just asking, for those that are watching the series, if there's other questions that, I want to open it up for them as, to email us, send us a message on Facebook or Instagram of, other questions that you might have around trust. I know we didn't get a chance to cover everything, but, or if there's anything else they want us to talk about, other issues. And telling people really plug into the weekly Quran and Me classes. They're free. And we discuss a lot of these personal, issues. We've been discussing trust in people after the Quran class, like after we get through on a much personal level of like, okay, so
Yeah.
how do we work through these really personal but critical issues? Because this is an everyday issue. This is what we're dealing with. So I just encourage people to plug in and register for our Quran and Me classes, and everyone can find it online on goodtreeinstitute.com, or the links are always there on Facebook and Instagram. So inshallah, we'll be covering other topics as well as they come up. I know we have even just from our own community, we kind of have a laundry list of things that keep coming up, right? And so
That's
there
so
will
true.
be more series. So, just stay tuned. And if there's anything in specific that people want us to, address, please tell us and we'll tackle it. We'll take it on.
All
So,
right.
well, thank you so much, Nadia.
Thank you, Shaza. Thank you. It's
There's
been
a lot
great.
of good stuff and, we got to keep moving forward. So
Yep.
one week at a time, one day at a time.
So true.